What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells, got James Hayden, got Drew Kelson with us for another great Wednesday Night Live. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 10,000 subscribers. We are on the way as we pass the third poll of the season, if that's even a word. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com, use the promo code IT1. Get yourself 2 months of Inside Texas access for just $1. Thank y'all for joining. We are waiting on something a little bit new for us.
I got something for you, Joe, already.
What you got?
Report 8 minutes ago. Bear Alexander intends to redshirt.
Wait, actually?
Buddy, we have just seen the start of the crap show.
Well, he's getting outplayed by a guy from Wyoming, but I feel like there's also some other stuff at play there as well. We'll talk about the UNLV thing. I know Charlie Williams wrote about it extensively today as someone who knows that program pretty well, knows some of the dynamics. I know that Ian and Homer talked about it this morning. That's surprising, and it is also not surprising at the same time. Welcome to TCU, Bear Alexander. But what I was referring to, and oh man,
Sugar Father.
Thank you, Sugar Daddy. Appreciate you as always for tuning in. The thing I'm waiting on is the SEC availability report. Press and refresh over here. We're expecting to see probably Quinn Ewers listed as questionable. Kind of curious to see what's on the side of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, as well as who else may pop up, whether it's Wisner, McDonald, Derek Williams, or anything like that. Drew, one of the things Sark mentioned, I can't remember if it was actually during his Monday press conference, was about how this is being enacted because of the presence and ubiquity of gambling in sports these days. And I know the NCAA tries to drill down into its student athletes. Don't bet on it. I'm sure you saw a ton of literature about that. Did you ever get approached by anybody asking for inside info for the edge on whether somebody was playing or not during your days?
Nobody for real. Like nobody spending real money in Vegas. Not to that extent, but in and around Austin, you'd always run into people who had a bookie local or something like that who just, hey, is such and such playing? I mean, and at that time, we didn't even know certain cases. We just having a conversation. We knew not to talk about it, but over time you realize, man, these guys are gambling. So, it was normal, but I don't think it was by anybody who's really pushing and moving lines out there.
I know the Hunter Deckers and the Iowa and Iowa State stuff probably scared everybody. Or should have over the past couple of days. And I know Vic Schaefer, the Texas women's basketball coach, had a great line that said, I think this was last summer. He said, as soon as you put on a burnt orange logo or uniform, you're on the board in Vegas. People know about you. People are understanding of your impact. And while it's nice to, I think it's also, Justin, just good for us in the media to be selfish for just a minute, to where we don't have to try to figure this stuff out. We get some sense of who's going to be on the field, and the fan also gets some sense of who's going to be on the field as well.
It makes, for the team insider role, it makes it a little easier. Let's just be honest, because that's part of the gig. Recruiting intel and insider team intel. That's what moves this business we're in. And so it helps in that regard. And at the same time, we still get that same team info. And now we know who we need to be cautious with when putting that information out and who we don't need to be cautious with. To me, that's kind of what it tells us. It's like, okay, Sark's going to show you your cards here. We've got our own hand over here. And now we know how to play it a little bit better. Because we always want to be a friend of the program. We always want to be able to help out the kids, help out the coaches in any way, form, or fashion. So, from a selfish standpoint, I think it helps a little bit. It just, like you said, the fans get to know it. It gives you a little bit of clarity. And then all the people that in the gambling world, I don't even know how much it helps them. because those guys, they're so dug deep into it. From a team insider standpoint, it makes our job easier.
And I know that there's the Schefters and the Rappaports. There's the people who give Pete Thamel a call and stuff like that. And
The agents.
The agents, yeah, it's PR after a sense, but it is still important. But let's kind of talk about why I'm pressing refresh on these injury reports all the time. And Justin, that's Quinn Ewers. Didn't play last week against ULM. Probably didn't need to play. You could argue he doesn't need to play this week against Mississippi State because they're on their backup and they're 35.5-point underdogs, maybe more for a reason. So what do you think happens with Quinn Ewers this upcoming Saturday? And do we even hear it tomorrow from Steve Sarkisian on Thursday?
Unlike last week where we heard Arch Manning on Thursday morning, you had that ready. I don't think we're going to get that tomorrow from Sark. I don't think he wants to give that away. I think with Arch's first start, maybe you give him a little build-up, a little bit of public momentum or whatever, whatever that is. What was it, the 5th largest crowd in the history of DKR? I mean, trust me, putting Arch's name out there 2 days earlier helps in that regard. You were facing ULM and a 44-point dog, so that helps. But with Quinn Ewers, he's been practicing this week, and I kind of feel like he is going to be the guy on Saturday. And it's not anything against Arch, but I will say this. The thing we learned about Arch on Saturday, he's got a little bit more gunslinger to his game than he let on. He likes to sling that pill around, sometimes a little too much. And trust me, I think Sark absolutely loves that. But he's like, okay, I got to reel you in a little bit. With Mississippi State, I think Texas could win with Arch Manning, but it's the first SEC game. They want to make the best impression. And listen, this is Quinn Ewers' team. Quinn Ewers is not trying to sit out until certain games. He wants to play. His name has been at the list at the top of the draft and the Heisman boards for 2 or 3 months, or a couple months. So I think we're going to see Quinn Ewers throwing the pill on Saturday. Big lead, second half Arch show, kind of similar to what we've seen before. But yeah, I think you can win with Arch. I think Sark feels okay, would feel comfortable with him. But man, if there's something we learned about Arch on Saturday, it's he's got an arm and he likes to flash it. And when he sees a window with 3 guys covering it, he still thinks he's got it. And you know what? I'm okay with that, but we gotta reel him in just a little bit. I think Sark wants to reel him in a little bit.
Did you say he
James,
sees a window or
go
a
ahead,
wingo?
Say it again.
Did you say he sees a window or a wingo with 3 guys?
Either way.
I love that.
Honestly, that's what he sees. He sees 5 and he just lets it go.
Yeah.
He's watching Ryan Wingo the way Chris Sims used to premeditate pass. The way Chris Sims used to say, okay, at the line, Roy, this is coming to you. Shh. And then he would eyeball him and throw it. Chris Sims was the quintessential premeditated passer. 100%. I think you see that a little bit with Arch and Ryan. They've just got a good little connection there. Did we ever report the story after that second practice, what Arch told Ryan? We did report that?
I think so, but tell the viewers.
Yeah, for viewers that didn't hear it, after the second practice or during the second practice this year in fall, Arch connected with Ryan on something, and Ryan jogs over and Arch grabs him, and it's just them two, and he says, look, there is nobody out here that can cover you. I'm throwing you this MF ball as much as I want. Just be prepared because we're about to make magic. And Ryan's eyes just shoot up, and it's like, okay, they've got a connection. And so, yeah, Drew's right. It ain't just a window. It's a wingo and a prayer.
We're halfway there. I had to keep it going. James, what were some of the things that you saw from Arch's performance? And let's say Quinn does play. What do you want to see from him on Saturday against Mississippi State?
Yeah, from Arch's performance, I think we just saw that there's still a significant gap there between him and Quinn. Like, it was very reminiscent of Quinn when he first got to UT in his first year in the system. And like Justin was saying, he has more of that gunslinger like a young Peyton Manning, where it's like if he wants to throw the ball there, he's going to throw the ball there. He's not going to think about what might happen. And Sark had that quote about it. When you throw it across the middle into double, triple coverage, bad things tend to happen. So I think it's just, Arch is still super talented. Those spirals were so tight, obviously, but I mean, they have a passing academy with the last name. You expect it, right? But he just wasn't quite there on the timing and the reads yet. So I think that's some of those things. Maybe the average fan, when I was talking to fans at some of the tailgates and pre-game stuff, people were, oh, this is going to submit Arch's Heisman race, and I'm like, all right, well, you're going to watch this game and see just where like the gap is in the maturity between the two quarterbacks. So I think Texas fans, we need to just be happy with what we've got with Quinn and realize just how great he is, that he's completing 73% of his passes. Expected a lot of the same this weekend. Great. The timing will be a lot better, assuming he plays. And then with Arch, just give him a year or two. I expect him to play. I expect him to start 2 seasons and see that kind of similar maturity as Quinn pretty soon here.
Sugar Daddy, I see you. Just 1 second. But I think you bring up a great point in that anybody who was watching Texas football, Stuart Mandel, and was like, quarterback controversy, like, this is going to be a disaster. How do they handle it? Or you can go the other direction. Oh, Arch is good enough to lead this team to a national championship for sure. Like, I think we saw on Saturday that there's still work to be done. And there's not a quarterback controversy. Steve Sarkisian said it himself, and he made it very clear. And I wrote about this last week. Like, he basically put the national championship aspirations are very dependent on Quinn Ewers playing, and Quinn Ewers being a top 5 pick and a Heisman candidate. He put all that out there, which we hadn't really, we don't always get that. Arch is going to be fine. He'll be great. He could end up being the best Manning of them all. But what we saw Saturday should quiet down any talk about a quarterback controversy, anything like that, and should quiet down a lot of different stuff. And I like this real quick from intro text. Fans need to cheer loud once Quinn Ewers returns. He's earned it. I agree completely. One of those things that
feeds
really,
off that, guys.
Really, I think fans will appreciate him, especially after they saw that clip. Chris Bennett, you posted it. I know you're in here, of Arch kind of leading the huddle, of Quinn leading the huddle while just in sweats and a jersey. I think that was impressive, and it shows whose team this is. Got to go to
also,
Sugar.
You need to find you someone that loves you like Jahdae Barron loves Quinn Ewers. If you need a hype man, Jahdae's your guy. If you need someone in consulting, stock investments, Jahdae's your guy.
If you need someone to play 8 positions on defense, that's not only Jahdae Barron, that's stud muffin Drew Kelson, because you're in a league of your own, and interception in your book always will be. James, this was something you brought up, and thank you to Wayne Watson for the super chat. Arch is still learning the art of the check down. It's easier to go deep. Sark, I just wish he would have game planned for more slants. It's very weird to hear a play calling head coach say, there are a lot of deep shots on here. Like, whose fault is that? I don't know. Who could it be? But James, when you saw that, heard that, what were your thoughts? And maybe is that something you would expect to see more from Arch in his coming appearances?
Well, on the Sunday show, obviously the Wizard of Analytics, Homer, was diving into all the efficiency ratings and stuff like that. And the pass, or the yards in the air of the pass, Quinn's was like 6, I think 6.2 or something. I'm going off of memory here. And Arch's was like 11. So, I mean, when Quinn comes in, he just knows to look for those shorter routes. It's what leads to a lot of those great clips, the no-look passes and stuff like that. It's just a guy who knows the playbook through and through. And he's matured, like we said, like 2022 Quinn. He had kind of that big eyes, like, oh, deep ball, deep ball, deep ball. I don't know where to go. Oh, there's Xavier Worthy. It's tempting. And we kind of see that with Arch and Wingo, right? So I think and maybe as we slide into more of the is Arch goes back into his backup role, we'll see him come in and maybe progress into that like maturity where he's hitting the shorter routes, where he's making the easier read, realizing, I don't need to be so, always deep oriented. Just go like, I've got these guys who can make huge plays off a 5-yard pass.
Fellas, I got to get an ad read in really quickly, and I got to give some love. We're on brand here. Don't say the word. Don't say the word, but we got to give some love to Prize Picks. If you play $5 right now, you get $50 instantly. I'm looking at my squares, and remember, now is the time to get involved with the more or less, all that in the MLB playoffs. Astros going to be in the wild card, so I know there's going to be some squares that you can go with there. There's also the NFL. There is all that. If you are looking to get involved with some of the best, get involved with Prize Picks. Play $5, get $50 instantly. If you use the promo code Inside Texas, make sure you head there. That's the place to go. I still have Quinn Ewers. I have a square with his name on it, where I still believe that he is going to get more than where I got to find it, more than 2,999 and a half passing yards. So maybe this is when it happens. I have a less on Connor Weigman, a more on Brock Vandegrift, a more on Graham Mertz, more on Taj Brooks, and more on Devin Neal. So try to fade me. See what happens. I can't wait to see it. Go to prizepicks.com, play $5, get $50 instantly. And, Justin, I got to hand it to you, but we have our first SEC injury report, and the running back room looks great. CJ Baxter out. Christian Clark out. Delton Gardner out. Colin Page, doubtful. And Quintravion Wisner, questionable. Quinn Ewers, also questionable. Jelani McDonald, questionable. Tashard Choice is going to earn his money this weekend.
That's exactly what he's going to do. And we're going to see more Jaden Blue. We're going to see more Jarrett Gibson, the baby rhino. And you know what? We're going to probably see a little bit of Ryan Niblett playing a little bit more in that running back position as well. And so, hey, this is where you get paid for the big bucks, guys. This is it right here. You got to make it work. Get in where you fit in. Man, I'm glad it's Mississippi State and not Georgia for some reason. But I think everything, we kind of expected most of this. I think the only surprise is maybe DeAndre Moore. We were following that one to make sure. I don't think he's going to be out there. There's a chance he's probably going to play. And then McDonald, there's a good chance he's going to be back. And so Wisner, to me, that's the one that you kind of watch because, I mean, at some point, you can't just keep going to the walk-ons. At some point, there's got to have to be a bell
out, or he's doubtful. Like
I know. There's going to be some cat. Listen, Anthony Hill grew up playing running back. Okay, I've seen it, and he's going to try to get some carries. He's going to go in that room and go, you know what? I can do this, guys. Y'all saw that pick six I had. You saw my running ability. I could see him try to get over there and get that. But no, I like this. Like we talked about earlier, it gives you a good idea of Isaac Smith is probable. That is noteworthy for Mississippi State. That is noteworthy. I believe that's their leading tackler, and he had been out this week with an injury, and so I think that's actually pretty big for Mississippi State if he's probable. But yeah, at the end of the day, we like these things. I think it's more transparent. But this running back, I just saw 5 running backs on one list, and Choice just had heartburn from that. And so, but I think they're going to be okay. I think they'll be just fine.
Fellas, any thoughts on this? It's a big week for Ryan Niblett, isn't it?
I mean, as long as Jaden Blue can go, we got to assume Jaden Blue can go. He's supposed to be our bell cow. Let him tote it. So it is what it is. We did it last week. He showed he can play all those snaps. He can be productive with those snaps. Yeah, I'm not concerned at all. We got little baby Rhino kind of taking some snaps away. I mean, just to kind of give him some relief here and there.
Yeah.
Jaden Blue knows these are the types of money-making weeks you get when you get to get all of the carries.
Good point.
It doesn't show up the same. You want to play good in big games, but you got to be productive in these games too. So let's go eat, Jaden Blue. You didn't come. I mean, this is the year, and you don't have to split the carries the way you were intending to. So go make it happen.
James, what's one thing on this chart that shakes you up a little bit? What's one thing you see? What's one name that you go, that's important?
Honestly, Jelani McDonald probably being questionable a little bit because he does a lot. But like Drew was just talking about. I think without Trey Wisner, we'll be all right, being able to have Jarek and Jaden do a lot of that. I mean, DeAndre Moore Jr. a little bit. But I think, honestly, all in all, this is kind of what we expected aside from DeAndre Moore Jr. So most of these guys, the team has kind of done a great job of plugging and playing so far.
They really have, and they're playing a lot. You know, we say a lot of running backs. They're playing a lot of everybody. There is a ton of depth being used. And Joe and I were talking about this earlier. There hasn't really been a close game yet. Most of these games have been blowouts, and so that's when you really start to rely on those ones and twos. Is when the game does get close. But Mississippi State shouldn't be a close game. Granted, they still have to play it on Saturday. Can't overlook anybody. Can't overlook Mississippi State for the bye week. You can't overlook that little vacation. They've got to finish strong. And I think they have scheduled it out to where, like, this is the first segment of the season. Like, they want to get everything done leading up to that bye week, because once they get back from that, it's a whole new year. OU, Georgia, like the murderer's row begins. And so I think at the end of the day, Drew, we talked about this with you all the time. It's Rice. You know, what exactly, with Mississippi State, is that kind of a mindset in the locker room where it's basically, look, we got to get past this section. We cannot do what we want to do with these other games unless you do your job here. And it feels like Sark has been really, really good about identifying that. Drew, I know that's something you talked about with Coach Brown before. Like, how important, I mean, how easy is it to overlook a Mississippi State, especially when they have a backup quarterback, especially with a gimmick style offense? And you might be looking forward to that extra bye week, to that extra few days off. Oklahoma in 2 weeks, Georgia in 3 weeks. How easy is it for guys to slip into that?
I just don't see it with this team. I do think it is easy, just in general, just because they lost to Toledo. I do feel like they put up a better fight against Florida, but at the end of the day, you watch the film, you see these guys, you assume weakness, you assume vulnerability, you assume softness, you assume a lot of things that are going to work in your favor. So, yeah, it can make you kind of take a step back, but that's just not the mentality of the team. That's not the way they're coached, because they don't coach them to perform based on what they're seeing on film as far as talent goes. They coach them based on effort. They coach them based on knowing your assignments, based on cohesiveness, based on communication throughout the week. All of those things need to be held to a standard regardless of the opponent. And so I just think the way the coaching staff addresses this team and prepares them each week, it weeds out any of the mental or some of the psychological games that can be played, because if you're not meeting that standard every week, it's fine. We can just put the next guy in. But they have these trackers at practice. They know how fast guys are running. They know the effort. They know what people's baselines are. I don't think we didn't have that type of technology. You can go into a practice on a Wednesday before Mississippi State game and me and Studdard say, hey, man, no headaches today. And we kind of know what that means. But that's usually much further later in the season too. But at the end of the day, not with all this on the line, not with the hunger they've had. They rotate so much. I'm sure guys feel like they still need more reps, to be honest with you. So it's just, I don't know how you're not hungry with everything that's out in front of these guys right now. So there's just no way I see that I just don't see it.
And that's fair. I mean, and that's kind of where this group is. I think that's where the mentality is, and that's kind of where everything's setting up. Aloha. We got a dude from Hawaii. Let's bring up his super chat, because I think it's a pretty good question that we can tackle right now. Thank you again, Traveler, for the $5 donation. Shifting gears a bit. I know I'm against popular opinion, but I think Texas needs to go big game hunting at running back and O-line in the portal. Okay, let's set the floor for this. First off, big game hunting generally happens during high school recruiting. There's not going to be a lot of big game type of guys in the portal. There's going to be guys, but big game is usually that's tough to find those guys. Usually you want to fill in holes, not necessarily find all-stars, because all-stars are generally going to stay where they're at, or they're part of retention. they're going to get a running back in the portal. That's almost a given in the offseason. And I believe Ricky Stewart Jr. and James Simon both understand that, both the 2025 commits in this class. They understand that, especially with what we just saw, 5 guys on a flipping injury report. O-line, that's an interesting one, in my opinion. James, if there's one guy that you think, one spot, give me one spot on the offensive line next season that you think to yourself, we need to make sure we fill this in. We need to make sure this is a spot that's getting covered, because I don't know if they're going to hit the O-line in the portal next. We don't know that yet. They might be a best player available type of situation occur, but the depth and development at O-line for Flood is huge. James, if there's one spot, what is it?
I feel like they're pretty good interior, especially with recruiting coming in. Their depth is going to be great. And that's the thing, like a lot of people look to the portal, is Texas just got a 5-star O-lineman committing, or he was a 4-star, a big boy from who committed to Texas over Georgia. So like they're getting Brooks. They're getting these big bodies and they're stacking them on top of each other. And like Cam Williams, I assume will be back. Like a lot of these guys will be back. We'll lose a couple to the draft, of course, but I would think interior would probably be where you would look for that. Like guard, maybe if Campbell is gone, or what they want to do with Hayden Connor. People talk about him a lot. So probably interior, looking on more like those big meatballs, kind of those Zach Zinner types, so we can start running the ball a little better. Because, the run blocking hasn't been quite as elite as the pass blocking with this group.
Oh, can you play running back, Drew? Like now? Because they need you.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
we got to get Andrew.
NIL era? Yes, he can.
Yes.
We got to get Andrew Kelson.
He still has his COVID year, I think.
Yeah.
He does.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
You've heard of Chris Winkie, the 29-year-old quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, what about the
34-year-old
running
back?
Yeah, the 9th-year senior?
Yeah, the 27-year-old. I think he was in school when Joe was there.
He probably was.
I can still do running back. Yeah, for sure.
That kind of goes with this. Wayne Watson, too early to say, but at this stage of the season, who are the coaches in jeopardy of putting a for sale sign in their front yard? Right now, 0, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for Texas, it's 0. Is Wayne talking about across the country? Because obviously Florida, Billy Napier, that's probably not going to end well. Sam Pittman in Arkansas, I don't know about that one either. They may win enough just to extend him or keep him along another year, but I do think they're going to go in a different direction.
Pittman's going to be a big win this week.
Who do they have? They play A&M, don't they?
Yeah,
they play A&M, and he clarified SEC. So Napier's one for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to hear
just stay above. Is going to be Hugh Freeze. That's going to be
that's going to be coming next year.
I think it's going to come sooner than next year.
I think our guy Paul Wadlington has a good point in that there are some schools that pull the plug, and there are some schools that throw more money at the problem.
Yeah.
And Auburn is a school that throws more money at the problem.
They're
going to have good wideouts. They recruit pretty well. I think DJ Durkin is a football idiot, and that says nothing about what he's done off the field. But they're going to recruit. They're going to get guys. They have receivers. They just have to buy a quarterback. And I think that they're going to give Freeze the time to make phone calls if they so
I want to see who's going to play quarterback for Hugh Freeze, because nobody gets tires across their back like a Hugh Freeze coach quarterback. Yeah. Like we have learned, and we knew that beforehand. We know it now. Hugh Freeze, good luck getting you a quarterback. And if you're a quarterback for Auburn, good luck. You better have some thick skin.
Well, Bo Wallace was even tweeting about him the other day. I don't know if y'all
Dr. Bo.
Dr. Bo. Great Bo Wallace. But yeah, he was saying he was like, look at all Hugh's quarterbacks have thrown career highs in picks when they play for him. I was like,
yeah.
I think with Pittman, as long as he's like 500-ish, it's like since 2021, he's got to do something, stay above 500, basically since he signed that extension. I think he's just floating above it, and Petrino's got them looking. They look better than I thought they would be. They look like they have a pulse, and they're not dead cat bouncing, even though the cat's not quite yet dead. Clark Lee probably needs to look out because once Pavia is done, which if they keep running him at the rate they have,
He won't last.
I don't know if that man lasts. Here's one that we haven't talked about yet. Has that team quit on Mark Stoops? Yeah, sorry.
I think so. I'm over Mark Stoops. I wish A&M took him, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends what happens this weekend. Like, we'll see how badly if Ole Miss really beats them down, which I think is a possibility because the Kentucky O-line is horrible. That you could see, especially they had the wins get vacated. The O-line has been horrible since Levis's first year there. I mean, I think that's an under the radar one. Good call by Joe. That could become a hot seat in the next couple years.
What else are some big ones? Baylor seems destined to open.
Our teams right now, Joe.
I know. Well,
what's
going on one that's working pretty well.
What's going on in Texas Tech?
JV Joey's he's too tied in right now.
Are they going to be over that whole act at some point?
I think they will.
I think there's a lot of Auburn there, and that there are two guys who make a lot of money off West Texas crude who will spend to try to fix problems instead of not spend. And that's why Micah Hudson's probably still in Lubbock right now.
Well, that and the Patrick Mahomes deal. Since he became a Patrick Mahomes Adidas player, which I kind of think was the whole sell the entire time now, I think that's probably keeps him locked in. But, hey, he finally got on the field. He made a play last week. Made a couple plays, I think. So he finally got on the field. I think Joey McGuire, he does so good with PR, and he's so good at being nice to the media that they're going to write glowing things. They're not going to come at him with a chopping block like a lot of people did with Charlie Strong and Tom Herman. They're not going to do that. But at some point, people in Lubbock still love Mike Leach, and that's the last time they've had a winner. And Joey does this another couple of years, man. They might be looking elsewhere. But I think Joey's they've got so much money sunk into what he's doing. I think they would have to fall off the cliff for that happens so soon.
Drew, what do you think of this one? Drew, what do you think of the our friends north of the Red River and this comment from Sugar Daddy?
Man, they're getting themselves in a hole right now. I saw Ian was saying earlier, he was looking at OU's film, he was looking at Mississippi State. One of his takeaways, I know he'll have some feedback tomorrow for sure, but OU's offense it's not as good as Mississippi State's. And that was just kind of like, I didn't pay that much attention, but they can't do this without offense. That defense actually showed up really well last week, and that's fine, but that's not an output you can give every game as a defense. You just cannot do that. They're going to find a team who's going to be able to take advantage of it, and who will take advantage of it, and not have a freshman quarterback and not be able, I know a team like that. I think they're in trouble. And if he can't figure out the offensive side of the ball, the great defense will not matter. And I don't think they're going to figure that out this year. But my hope is that they have hope when they come to Dallas, that they will have it figured out.
Crush the dreams.
The Mikey Hawkins experience. Listen, Mikey's I thought he was a good high school quarterback at Allen, but he's not a guy that's going to go through progressions, go through reads. He's just not. He's going to be a guy that he makes one read and he's going to tuck it and go. And I think they're going to put the offense kind of around that a little bit and probably simplify it. But like Joe said, we were talking about OU last night, or texting about it. And I said, it's similar because they can't portal the entire O-line. And I think it's skill guys. They've got some dudes, but not like they used to. Not like when they had Stoops and Riley. Like some of those guys, right? Well, and that's the other thing. The few that they've had haven't even been healthy. And so My question is there a third OC in 3 years that comes in? Or what happens with Jackson Arnold and that return on investment? Can you imagine going to that collective meeting, going to that booster club and going, hey, we're going to need this money again because Arnold's about to head to Starkville. So we're going to have to find something better.
Yeah, I mean, I think no one's happier right now than Dylan Gabriel. I mean, that if you look at their offensive numbers from last year to now, I was looking at it earlier today, actually, because that's the one thing OU is supposed to be able to do. I mean, Venables is changing the culture a little bit. They do have a great defense, but they have one 100-yard receiver right now. And their tight ends in 100 yards or 200 yards, and then next highest guy's at like 70-something yards. But they were top 5 in almost every metric you can think of last year with Dylan Gabriel. And they just bet on the wrong horse. I mean, it's that. And then also they lost a lot of guys. And like Joe was saying, they've got a ton of injuries. I mean, I think it's going to be a harder game than they expect in Jordan Hare, especially starting a freshman quarterback on the road.
Joe,
go
ahead. I was just going to say, how do you have that conversation with Arnold? Like, how does that go? Because you're, and I mean it like the Bob Stoops tweet. What are you doing?
Oh,
that's a divisive tweet if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
He probably meant well. He probably thought, I'll rally the guys. They're going to go with the backup. It's good. But you just threw your starter that they had sunk all these resources and development into for the last year and a half. Last 2 years. That to me was probably the worst tweet he could have had.
Yeah.
And I think it's more they hired 2 air raid guys, and I know Joe John Finley's got some connection to the Brile system, but Luttrell was an air raid guy, and they hired an air raid guy to run the veer and shoot, and it looks like it. Like, it's not working. It's more staff than player right now, and it's still player at the same time. Drew, I saw you wanted to say something on this as well. Sorry.
No, I just think
Jackson Arnold should redshirt.
Jackson Arnold.
I think Jackson Arnold should redshirt. I think that's what would be best.
His agent might tell him that too.
I think he should redshirt. I mean, at the end of the day, Barry Alexander's doing it, but why not? I mean, now there's 2 sides to this. Jackson Arnold that showed up in their bowl game last year, I believe is the same Jackson Arnold that showed up during the spring, the same Jackson Arnold that showed up during the fall.
Yeah.
They just didn't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And now they're just forced. They're forced to tip their hand. And the way that they let Dylan Gabriel walk out of the door for Jackson Arnold, I honestly think they were in fear of Hawkins walking out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a lot of people who I've paid attention to a bunch of the different like national podcasts, and one of the prevailing things is, well, that staff loved Hawkins. Like, they didn't say that about Jackson Arnold. They said about Hawkins.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And the thing is probably, like Hawkins is a good quarterback, but he's the size of Jonte Cook right now. Jonte Cook's like 6'1", 190. Like, is that guy going to survive at Jordan Hare on the road? They're 90,000.
Jonte Cook is not 190.
Is he up or down?
Down.
Oh, well. Okay. Maybe
remember, Worthy was listed at 175. Worthy has never weighed 175 pounds in his entire life. Even after leaving a buffet or Shoguns, he still has never weighed that much. But you make a good point.
Going to do one thing real quick. Got to give some love to our sponsor, Laura Baker, and that will come from LC.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
If you see Ian this weekend, say hello to him. Gentlemen, y'all want to talk about the UNLV thing? Might as well hit it. We got
a few minutes left. Let's do it.
We've seen that broke about this time last night. it's carried into a lot of different he said, she said. There's a running back doing it now. Bear Alexander is the other player, USC defensive tackle, looking for how many. He and Agiye Hall are competing on the schools list. But it's a lot of he said, she said. Drew, I think you had some thoughts on this that we were texting about a little bit earlier, and I think as someone who has lived in the college locker room, you may have some you've got insight we can't provide.
I mean, there's two sides of it. I mean, this is a new world in and of itself, right? I think from a player perspective, this guy being a senior, I mean, we can say what we want about he transferred there and where did he come from and did he really increase his value in the first 4 games? Like those are questions, those are legitimate questions. But at the end of the day, he has a right to make this decision for his career. I think this is his final eligible year. He has to actually play football. So if you're not going to max out NIL, you definitely want to be in a position where you can get a shot at the NFL. I don't think he's getting either of those here. So when you have those conversations internally, why not take advantage of it? Why not do what you have to do? I don't agree with it. It doesn't sit well with me, but I understand why you would consider that, especially if you were enticed or induced to go somewhere and not get what you were expecting to get. But even if you weren't expecting to get that, even if you are just trying to leave because you don't see you're going to get what you could make elsewhere, bet on yourself. It is what it is. It does put that team in a bind, but just like OU and just like other teams, they just get to a point where you lose your quarterback and you're screwed. I think got to get out of that position. You can't just rely on one quarterback, folks. You got to make sure you have multiples like Texas does, because that's really the only way to go these days.
UNLV needs to link up with whoever Jerry Tarkanian was linked up with, because I don't think y'all remember the greatest college basketball team in the history of the sport. They cost some money. They cost some 1990 UNLV, Daddy.
I thought you loved Bob Knight.
I love Bob Knight. Are you kidding me? The best basketball coach in the history of this. I love Bobby Knight. Everything about him. Everything. Like, you can't choke kids anymore. What's that about? You can't hit kids?
Can't throw a chair.
My first year coaching, the head football coach would walk through the hallways after the bell. If he saw a football player, get your hands on the wall, because he had a board in his hand. I'll never forget Coach Turner. Big guy. And you'd be shocked at how many football players were in class when that bell rang. It works. It works. It's like the little girl chugging the Michelob Ultra. She's just trying to hydrate. That little girl's thirsty. Y'all want to give her mom a hard time? Hey, at least she wasn't on an iPad. At least she wasn't scanning a phone. Old girl was having a drink and enjoying the game. Y'all need to understand things have changed in this life. And so, yeah.
It was an empty can.
But
that's what she turned it up.
It was empty when she was done with it. And I got to tell you, that's a future Longhorn. She's going to be in a sorority one day doing that. And she will be prepared, Drew. She will know what it means when that cannon goes off. There you go.
Well, the way things are going, there might not be sororities.
Kids, come on, guys.
So UNLV.
UNLV paid a ton for Larry Johnson, for Stacey Augmon, Anderson Hunt.
Yeah.
All those guys, Greg Anthony.
Luka.
They paid so much. Michigan looked at it and said, why don't we buy the 5 best players in college, in high school? Why don't we do that? Because UNLV just showed the blueprint of how to do it. UNLV did it in the JUCOs, because a lot of those guys actually came from the JUCO. Larry Johnson was from Skyline, but he played at Midland College. And so Michigan looked at that and said, Coach Fisher, Steve Fisher's like, well, Chris Webber's right down the street. We can give him a chunk. Jalen Rose was on the other side of town. Give him a chunk. Juwan Howard, I think, was down in one of the Carolinas or something. Got to go get him. Jimmy King and Ray King or Jimmy King and Ray Jackson. Those were Texas kids that Michigan got in that Fab Five. That's what that did. Long story short, UNLV, go find Jerry Tarkanian's boosters, because that was a basketball powerhouse, and they never had a problem with NIL before it was NIL. That's all Barry Odom's got to do. Go find that guy that was hooking up the running Rebs in basketball, because it was not cheap.
our Charlie Williams had a really good article on this. He's got insight. He's been very open about, and he didn't really reveal too much in the article. He just kind of talked about the dynamic, and he's been very open about the fact that he worked for Coach Odom at UNLV, was in Las Vegas. He's seen, this program. I did kind of do a little research, and just in the whole situation, it's he said, she said. It sounds like Sloka said, I was told I was getting this. He never got a written offer. He never got anything like that. And whatever coach told him that, bad call. It also sounded like UNLV did pay him. It's not like UNLV, like you said, Justin, they don't have Tarkanian's crew right now. It doesn't sound like a place that's flush with cash for NIL. And at the same time, supposedly they brought in another quarterback during this portal cycle. So if they had big funds or big fund for one guy, they kind of split it. And that's while bringing in Jalen Catalon, Casey Kane. I think there was one more who made the migration. I think there was one more who made the migration over there. Like, this isn't a program flush with cash. And this kid's also not good enough to renegotiate. He helped them win. They beat a Power 5 team.
They probably dared him. It's almost at the point where, are you gonna go somewhere else? Or are you gonna play your season because you're already here? So what are you gonna do? You just gonna quit? Because that'll make you look bad. And then the dad and the kid are like, well, yeah, I guess we'll just quit. And they called their bluff. And now they started potentially an avalanche of this stuff.
Drew?
See what stands out to me and what would bother me. Charlie said, Coach Dub said, the kid, I mean, at the end of the day, his deal was more close to you'll have everything you need as a college student. You will live comfortably. You will eat. You will sleep well. Like, you'll have everything you need as a college student. I would have taken that. Literally $800, $850 a month. I mean,
and if you're putting in this much effort to get a kid, you can go to the apartment complex that probably sponsors your games and be like, look, can you get this guy the penthouse? Like, can you eat $1,600 a month for us? We'll put your name on the scoreboard. Like, this isn't that difficult.
This just shows you what collectives are really doing their job and what others are just skirting by.
Exactly. And I remember when y'all remember the whole Jaden Rashada thing with
That's what
Florida.
This makes me feel like.
Right. And I remember writing about that, and it's like the whole system will benefit from transparency of some form or fashion, whether it be, as someone mentioned, a union, which they've tried, and
don't want that.
and collective bargaining and whatever happens with this player compensation thing with the House case, if that gets approved, like, that's a thing down the road. But transparency, if UNLV's collective put something in front of this kid and he signed it, there's no miscommunication. Now we have this massive miscommunication with blame probably due on both sides. And it's become this whole, referendum on the entire sport as we know it right now. And there's some truth to it. But at the same time, like, I also agree with you, Drew. It's like, and we talked about this as well. Like, there should be no renegotiating in the season. None. And Gundy said that. And I think Gundy, for all the flack he gets, was right about that and continues to be. In a little bit different vein, and this is because I think he's got replaced. People in the chat brought up Bear Alexander. Where was Terrell and then IMG? Does that sound right?
No, well, he went to four or five high schools. He started at Terrell, then he went to Denton Ryan, then he went to Skyline, then he went to IMG. I don't remember after
and
IMG.
then Georgia.
I don't think he moved. Did he move back his senior year after IMG?
The fact that we don't know.
The Denton Ryan state championship team. I know that. That D-line will all play in the NFL. That D-line and Anthony Hill behind him, that entire D-line is going to play in the NFL. He was on that Ryan state championship team.
He goes to Georgia, doesn't see playing time as much as he'd like, goes to USC, was on the bad USC defense, and then he hadn't cracked the rotation in a good USC defense.
And remember how close he was to getting in the portal in the spring?
Yeah, and then he had to reject that or deny that. Like,
yeah,
James, Bear Alexander is not the kid to, take and be like, oh, this is terrible for the sport. Bear Alexander is jumping in the portal with 4 games because he didn't. But we're going to see kids who aren't satisfied with playing time do this. We saw it at Notre Dame, and we're seeing it at USC.
Yeah, I mean, Bear Alexander, that was kind of a shocking one, like just that he hasn't gotten into the rotation yet at USC. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we were saying. Like, I agree with Drew mostly that it's kind of a lose-lose for everyone involved. Like, the childlike fan in me is sad, like the fact that UNLV was going to have a cool Group of 5 season. Like, hey, maybe they were going to be a playoff contender, right? And then Matthew Sluka and their running back, who was not their starting running back, but he was getting carries, right? And they're both in the portal, before conference play even starts because of money disputes. Which, yeah, like Drew said, I mean, previous generations would just be happy to be like, oh, you're giving me, a few grand a month. Like, I know as graduated from school, like if I got a few grand a month doing anything, I'd be happy, So, but I get the kid's point, like, hey, he's not going to play in the NFL. He has a 48% completion percentage. So I guess he'll go to another Group of 5, hope to get like 50 grand. It's just kind of a sad day, and it's where we're at. Like,
I think he goes to the NFL draft. I don't think he plays another down at college.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he tries that. I could see.
Bear Alexander goes to the draft.
Oh, he's talking about Bear Alexander Sluka.
The kid goes
Bear
wherever.
It could still end up getting signed for a team, but we probably won't see him play another college down. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the thing is like people are saying it's turning into the NFL light, but the NFL, like we saw with like CeeDee Lamb and guys, it's like they at least handle. Well, a lot of that was dramatic and dragged out. They handle it before the first kickoff, right? So it is like, why are we doing disputes in the middle of the season?
I agree. It's a lot different.
Drew and Sneezy are killing me on this chat over here. They are killing me, and I love it.
I'm just pouring out my NIL emotions, man.
Let it out, brother. Let it go.
I had to move back home. I mean, I basically, yeah. No, these guys don't have to live through that. That's all right. Good for them.
It is a lot different, and that's 100%. And it also comes at a time when Steve Sarkisian says this, and I agree with it. Like, if you just ignore targeting just for a second, Justin, the on-field product has never been better.
Yeah.
Like, we've got. I mean, just watch what Texas is doing with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. Like, the product is great. The product is great when you watch, teams like Ohio State, even Michigan last year played it was a bruising style of football. Like, Oregon is fun to watch when they have the right offensive line in the game. Like, this is one of the better times, and more teams can compete. We're talking about playoff contender UNLV. Like,
the sport hasn't been more interesting ever.
Yeah.
This is why I think there's nothing more valuable than tenure right now as a coach. If you're going to keep losing and firing coaches and getting rid of guys, how can you build a brand as a program? You have to build something the coach wants to stay into, the players want to stay into and be a part of, because you can't keep having this revolving door and expect to have some consistency. And I would think that's just what it comes down to. People want to stay at Texas because they know there's stability. They want to stay at Georgia. They want to go to these schools and stay there because they know there's some stability. When you have turnover, when you have promises that are naturally broken, or even when there's always rumors about a coach being fired, everybody knew Billy Napier was going to have a rough year. Why are we acting like this is brand new? Like, it was going to be rough regardless. He still can win next week. Like, at the end of the day, you should have just fired him last year. You saw the schedule this year. Let's stop pretending it's supposed to beat Miami. It's supposed to be. No, let Billy Napier, and this isn't me, I'm just saying, like, if Billy Napier has more time, now if he just is not a good coach and he can't get it done, that's a completely different thing. But the guy has people still wanting to come to school to play for him. Yeah. The only thing that's working against him are rumors that saying he's not going to be there. Mm-hmm. And of course they're losing games, but you can still build around something. He still has something to sell, but you start fresh, good luck. And all these schools who keep turning over, that's what's going to continue to happen.
If you ask college coaches, they love Billy Napier. They respect him a ton. If he does, wind up getting evicted, he's going to get picked up on a staff. That he is a really, really good coach, and I think he's a good recruiter. I think the mess at Florida is NIL, and it might be the reason Lane Kiffin turns them down because Ole Miss has their stuff buttoned up.
Yeah.
Florida doesn't. Is Florida, a better program long term? Absolutely. I remember in the late 2000s thinking that was the program in all of athletics, football, basketball, baseball. Those jokers were at every title game all the time. But NIL comes in, and Florida, for some reason, can't get those BBs in the box. And I think that's going to cost them when it comes to hiring a new coach, because Kiffin, to me, is perfect for that spot. But if they don't get that NIL buttoned up, it's not going to happen. And Billy Napier is a good football coach. He is going to land somewhere, and he is going to do well. He is a great football coach, just not the right – it's timing. Life is timing, and he's got the worst timing right now in Gainesville.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We never – like these programs have never been more impatient, and especially fan bases too.
Yep.
It's like I think a lot of it is just that TikTok brain. Like people are like, oh, it's been 2 seasons. Why is he not winning yet? It's like, what happened to giving a guy a full recruiting class? Like, I mean, Billy Napier's going to probably not even finish his 3rd season. Like, think about how absurd that would be, 10 years ago. But now it's just, oh, man, 2.5 seasons. Sorry, didn't cut it. Like, he's still recruiting the top 10. He's recruiting the best in Florida, or them in Miami. They're blowing Florida State out of the water in recruiting. So, I mean, it's just a shame, and it's going to be another good coach that is going to be probably, forced down a peg, and who knows if he'll be able to build himself back up.
If I'm sorry, I'm hiring Napier on the staff, support staff, 10 minutes later.
It's a very weird double-edged sword, because like y'all are saying, like these kids want a place where it's like, I know I'm going to get probably the same system, if not maybe the same coaches for the 3 to 5 years that I'm there. And then you got the fans who saw and continue to see different programs basically jump up real quick and have great success. Like Washington is kind of an example of it. And granted, there were some leftover guys there, and there was the example, or the fact that they brought Michael Penix Jr. to Seattle. Like everybody kind of sees Kalen DeBoer. Alabama saw Kalen DeBoer have 2 10-win seasons in Seattle, and they're like, you know what? This guy's good enough to hire. And granted, he's had a track record from wherever he's been. But so many programs see places like that, see examples like that, and they're like, you can build something in 2 years to be a winner. Why aren't we that? And kids kind of want that, but they don't. They want something that's more sustainable, in these athletic departments, and fans just don't have the patience for it. I mean, Justin,
they
want
the brotherhood, Joe. They want the brotherhood. Like, if you talk to Texas recruits right now, they interact with Texas players on a regular basis. I think that is as big as NIL, as being number one. They found in Austin that these guys really like being around each other. And honestly, that's what's got us into sports in the first place. It's the team stuff. It's being with your boys. It's learning, good wins, hard losses. That's when life teaches you everything. And I think kids still want the brotherhood. You still have those parents that with the NIL dollar signs over their head, they're still going to chime in and insert themselves in some recruitments that we've seen more so than in the past. But overall, if you talk to these kids, I think they love the brotherhood. I think they love the that is a culture that those guys, when they go to Texas, there is nobody in that locker room talking about where they're going next. There's nobody in there talking about what big deal they just got. They're all together. And I really do think young kids, even though they may not say it, they want that.
Well, yeah, I think that's why they go to those programs that have the most consistency.
Good point.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's, look at the top of the recruiting rankings. Like Dan Lanning, and then I'm kind of going up, like Mario Cristobal ain't leaving Miami unless they throw him in the ocean. Like that is his home. Dan Lanning is staying there. He turned back, allegedly, Alabama. He's staying there as long as Phil Knight's there. Sark, Norvell to an extent, but he's not doing things right. Like Smart, like all those guys, that's where the top of and even Dabo. Like you can talk about how bad Dabo's done in a lot of important areas, but Clemson still has a lot of appeal because of the fact that they know he's going to be there. And Lincoln Riley is kind of in that category. We'll see with Ryan Day, but Ohio State fans are crazy. Like you look at the top of the recruiting rankings, yeah, there's tradition, but there's also just consistency in those programs. And Alabama's the question mark. That's why winning on Saturday is going to be so important for them, because no one knows a ton about Kalen DeBoer after they've known Nick Saban for their literal entire life. Gentlemen, we're at an hour. Anything else y'all want to touch on? Sweet. Thank y'all for joining. If you haven't already, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Justin, me, and Ian will be back tomorrow morning, 9:30, going over the SEC slate, get to talk a little bit about that Alabama-Georgia game, and, of course, important things to know with Texas. We'll go a little bit more into that injury report and things like that. Also,
we're also going to talk about the recruiting visitor list in the morning. Mississippi State's list is growing. Go to InsideTexas.com for the latest. We're going to talk about that recruiting visitor list. There's going to be some D linemen on the 40 acres and a wide receiver that they're going to try to flip. Come see us in the morning.
Exactly. Come over to Inside Texas, subscribe to this channel, like the video, and everybody, we'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.